How long does it take for a person to realize they've been left to die? For Elena Winters, the answer was exactly 47 seconds. That's how long she sat in her wheelchair on that empty road, rain hammering down like punishment from heaven, before she understood that her stepmother and stepbrother weren't coming back. They weren't checking the engine. They weren't taking photos of the scenery. They were driving away, and they were never going to stop. This is the story of the woman they tried to erase, and the stranger who refused to let them. The October sky had turned the color of bruises hours ago. Now it wept with fury that made you believe God himself was angry. Elena Winters, 23 years old and paralyzed from the waist down since 15, gripped the armrests of her wheelchair with hands that could feel everything. Unlike her legs, which had been numb for 8 long years, she replayed the last hour in her mind, searching for the moment she should have known. Victoria's voice sweet as poisoned honey. "Let's get you out here, sweetheart. The mountain view is beautiful, even in the rain. Your father would have loved this spot." Nathan's hands on her wheelchair, positioning her just so on the gravel shoulder, his smile never reaching his eyes, his fingers lingering a moment too long, like a man arranging furniture he was about to throw away. The sound of car doors closing, the engine starting, and then Nathan's face through the rear window. He didn't look guilty. He didn't look conflicted. He looked relieved, like a man who had finally set down a heavy burden. Elena had called out to him, screamed his name until her throat tore. He stared at her for one long, cold moment. Then the black Mercedes disappeared around the bend. The first hour was the loudest. Elena screamed until she tasted blood. She tried to wheel herself forward, but gravel caught her wheels like quicksand. Every push sent her nowhere. The road stretched empty in both directions. No houses, no cars, nothing but farmland that stopped being farmed decades ago. Old Mill Road. She remembered seeing the sign when they turned onto it. Victoria had said it was a shortcut to the mountain spa. There was no spa. There never was. This road was chosen because no one ever used it. No cameras, no witnesses. Just a forgotten stretch of asphalt where a woman in a wheelchair could disappear forever. The perfect crime. The second hour brought the cold. Rain turned from uncomfortable to cruel. Elena's designer clothes, chosen by Victoria for the family healing trip, were soaked through. Her teeth chattered so violently she thought they might crack. She thought about her father. Richard Winters had been dead for only 3 weeks. A massive stroke had taken him in the middle of breakfast, his coffee cup still warm when paramedics pronounced him gone. Elena had been in the next room. She heard the thud of his body hitting the floor. She would hear that sound in her nightmares forever. Her father had spent 9 years caring for her after the riding accident that stole her legs. 9 years of physical therapy appointments in wheelchair ramps and late-night conversations about what her future could still become. He never once made her feel like a burden. Never once looked at her with pity. And now his wife, the woman he trusted to be Elena's second mother, had left his daughter to die on a road that didn't have a name on most maps. The third hour was when Elena stopped screaming. She started praying instead. Not for rescue, she had given up on that. She prayed for her father's forgiveness, for not seeing the truth about Victoria and Nathan sooner, for being so desperate for family, so hungry to belong after her mother died, giving birth to her, that she ignored every red flag. The way Victoria's kindness evaporated when Richard left the room, the way Nathan's questions about her care costs felt too pointed, the comments she overheard but chose to forget. How much longer can this go on? And there are facilities for situations like this. Elena had convinced herself she was paranoid, ungrateful for the family her father tried to build. Now she understood. They had been waiting for Richard to die so they could inherit his wealth. When the will didn't give them what they expected, they improvised. The fourth hour was silent. Elena was numb. Not just her legs, everything. Her hands stopped shaking. Her tears stopped falling. She made peace with dying here, alone, in the same storm that would wash away any evidence of what had been done to her. 23 years old. That was all she would get. She closed her eyes and thought about her father's face, the way he smiled when she learned to paint watercolors from her wheelchair, the way he held her hand in the hospital after the accident and promised her life wasn't over. It was just beginning differently. "I'm sorry, Daddy," she whispered into the rain. "I'm sorry I didn't see them for what they were." And then, headlights. Elena was certain it was a hallucination, her mind giving false hope in her final moments. But the car was slowing down. Someone was getting out. For the first time in 4 hours, Elena Winters allowed herself to hope. Marcus Thornwell almost didn't take Old Mill Road. He was already running late to pick up his daughter Sophie from piano practice. Again. Since his wife Sarah died 4 years ago from complications during routine surgery, Marcus had been both mother and father to their only child. Some days he managed well. Most days felt like drowning in slow motion. He worked freelance now, investigating insurance fraud from his home office. The corporate job with its steady paycheck had died with Sarah. Marcus needed flexibility. He needed to be there when Sophie had nightmares about her mother. His own father had walked out when Marcus was 7, never came back, never even called. That kind of abandonment leaves marks that never fully heal. Construction on Highway 41 forced him onto Old Mill Road, a detour he'd never taken. Rain came down so hard his wipers could barely keep up. He was irritated, distracted, calculating how to explain to Sophie that Daddy was late again. That's when his headlights caught something impossible. A wheelchair on the side of the road. Someone sitting in it. Marcus slowed down. Out here? In this weather? Most people would have called 911 and kept driving. Marcus knew this. He'd investigated enough claims to know Good Samaritan situations often ended badly. But Marcus also knew what it was like to be abandoned. He pulled over. The woman in the wheelchair was barely conscious, blonde hair plastered to her face, lips blue from cold, eyes that had already accepted death. "Miss, can you hear me?" When she looked up, something cracked in Marcus's chest. Terror and disbelief fought for control of her features, like she couldn't believe someone had actually stopped. "Please," her voice was barely a whisper, "please don't leave me here." "I'm not going anywhere," Marcus said. He didn't ask questions. He scooped her from the wheelchair. She weighed almost nothing, like a bird with broken wings, and carried her to his SUV. He went back for the wheelchair, collapsed it, threw it in his trunk. Inside the car, heat blasting, the woman wrapped both hands around the coffee thermos he offered. Her whole body shook, even with the blanket around her shoulders. "We need to get you to a hospital," Marcus said. "No." The force of her response made him freeze. "Please, no hospital. They'll find me there. They'll finish what they started." Marcus turned to look at her fully. "Who will find you?" Her eyes met his. What he saw wasn't just fear. It was the look of someone who had learned that family could be the most dangerous word in the English language. "My stepmother," she whispered. "My stepbrother. They did this. They left me here to die." Her name was Elena Winters. Marcus drove toward home as she told her story in fragments, voice gaining strength as warmth returned. Her father Richard had raised her alone after her mother died in childbirth. When Elena was paralyzed at 15, a horse-jumping accident that ended her dreams of competitive riding, Richard never made her feel like a burden. "He called me his greatest gift," Elena said, staring at her hands, "every single day." Richard remarried 5 years ago. Victoria seemed perfect, caring, attentive, always asking about Elena's needs. Her son Nathan, then 17, was charming and helpful. "I wanted so badly to believe we could be a real family," Elena admitted. "After never knowing my mother, I wanted to belong somewhere. But it was an act. The real Victoria only emerged when Richard wasn't around. Questions about care costs, suggestions that Elena might be happier in a facility with trained staff. 3 weeks ago, Richard died of a massive stroke. 2 days later, his will was read. Elena's voice hardened. He'd updated it 6 months before he died, without telling anyone. He left almost everything to me. The house, investments, classic car collection. Over $2 million. Marcus felt his stomach drop. And Victoria? 50,000. Nathan got the same. 5 years of pretending to love us, and all they got was 50,000. The pieces clicked together. This wasn't impulsive cruelty. Victoria and Nathan had played a long game, waiting for Richard to die. When the will didn't go their way, they improvised. The spa trip, Marcus said slowly. It was never about healing. No, Elena agreed. It was about making me disappear. Marcus's house was a modest colonial in Marietta, Georgia. The kind that looked like 100 others, except this one still had too many photos of Sarah on the walls. His neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, a retired nurse who had become like a grandmother to Sophie, came immediately when Marcus called. Hypothermia, just barely avoided, she pronounced after examination. Another hour out there, and we would be having different conversation. When 12-year-old Sophie came home, she stopped in the living room doorway. Her dark eyes, so much like her mother's, took in the scene. A stranger wrapped in borrowed clothes, shivering on their couch. Most kids would have asked questions. Sophie walked straight to Elena and sat beside her. I'm Sophie. Are you okay? Elena's composure cracked. She had been alone for 3 weeks since her father's death, surrounded by people who wanted her dead. This child's simple kindness undid her. I'm getting there, Elena managed through fresh tears. Sophie looked at her father. She can have the guest room. It's on the first floor. Pride swelled in Marcus's chest. His daughter had Sarah's compassion. That night, after Sophie went to bed, Elena told Marcus everything. The will reading. Victoria's face going white before she composed herself into practiced grief. Nathan's jaw tightening imperceptibly. The family healing trip, suggested 3 days later. Elena had been so grateful, so desperate to believe tragedy could bring them closer. How stupid could I be? She whispered. You're not stupid, Marcus said firmly. You trusted people who were supposed to be family. That's not stupidity. That's human. He leaned forward, investigator's mind already working. They made one mistake. They let you live. And now you have me. I spent 15 years catching liars. I know how they think. He met her eyes. We're going to catch them. For the first time since Marcus found her, Elena's eyes held something other than fear. They held hope. The next morning, Marcus turned on local news while making breakfast. Victoria Winters filled the screen, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. Nathan stood beside her, arm around his mother, the picture of a devastated family. Please, Victoria sobbed. If anyone has seen Elena, please call us. She wandered away from a rest stop on Highway 41. She's confused, grieving, not in her right mind. We just want our Elena home safe. A crash behind Marcus made him spin around. Elena had wheeled herself into the kitchen. Her coffee mug lay shattered on the floor. Her face was ashen. They're making me look crazy, she whispered. They're making me the villain. On screen, Victoria dabbed her eyes. Elena has a history of emotional struggles. Since her accident, she's battled depression. We're so worried she might hurt herself. Turn it off, Elena said. Please. Marcus clicked off the television. His hands shook, not with fear but rage. At the police station, it was worse than Elena feared. The officer was sympathetic but skeptical, middle-aged with kind eyes. Ma'am, your stepmother has been on television for 12 hours, organized search parties, put up a $10,000 reward. Are you saying that was fabricated? Every single word, Elena said steadily. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. The officer sighed. Without evidence, this becomes he said, she said. Old Mill Road has no cameras. Rain washed away physical evidence. So they just get away with it? Marcus demanded. I'll file the report. We'll investigate. But proving attempted murder without evidence is incredibly difficult. Outside the station, Elena slumped in her wheelchair. They planned it perfectly. They knew rain would destroy evidence. They knew no one would believe the crazy disabled girl over the crying stepmother. Marcus knelt beside her, forcing her to meet his eyes. I've investigated hundreds of fraud cases, insurance cheats, fake accidents, stage crimes. You know what they all have in common? Elena shook her head. The people who commit them think they're smarter than everyone else. That arrogance always leads to mistakes. He took her hand. Victoria and Nathan made mistakes. We just have to find them. Where do we start? We start with money. Money always tells the truth. Derek Morrison was Marcus's oldest friend, college roommates who stayed close despite different paths. Derek was a lawyer now specializing in civil rights and elder abuse. This is personal for me, Derek admitted at Marcus's house that evening. He was a tall man with graying temples and eyes that had seen too much injustice. My grandmother was taken advantage of by her second husband, cleaned out her savings. I became a lawyer because of her. He spread documents across the dining table. Without physical evidence placing them at the scene, we need circumstantial proof, motive, opportunity, and, most importantly, a lie they can't explain away. Over 3 weeks, Marcus worked the case with fury he'd never felt for insurance fraud. Elena provided access to her father's estate accounts. Credit card statements told a damning story. In 2 weeks since Richard's death, Victoria had gone on shopping sprees at luxury stores, put a down payment on a new Mercedes, placed a deposit on an apartment in Buckhead, Atlanta's most expensive neighborhood. She's already spending Elena's money, Derek observed. She must be confident Elena's never coming back. But it was witness interviews that made Marcus's blood boil. An elderly neighbor named Mrs. Sarah Chen had brought a casserole the day after Richard's funeral. Victoria didn't know anyone was at the door. I heard her on the phone, Mrs. Chen testified in a sworn statement. She said, "Don't worry, we'll have the money soon. I just have to deal with the cripple first." A hospital nurse named Carmen Rodriguez had treated Richard during his final hours. His stepson came to the nurse's station while his stepfather was coding in the next room, Carmen said with disgust. Asked about the cheapest long-term care facilities in the state, his stepfather's heart had just stopped, and this boy was planning to dump the daughter somewhere cheap. But the most disturbing discovery came from Nathan's social media. Marcus found an account Nathan thought was private. Photos of club nights, bottle service, expensive dinners, all posted while Nathan publicly claimed to be devastated about his missing stepsister. One post, dated 2 days after Elena was abandoned, made Marcus's vision go red. Problem solved, celebrating with bottle service. Life is good. He's a sociopath, Elena said quietly when Marcus showed her. I always felt something was off, the way he looked at me when Dad wasn't around. Like I was an obstacle, not a person. Derek studied the evidence. We have witnesses establishing motive, financial records showing they expected Elena dead, Nathan's own words proving he's not grieving, but none of this proves they left her on that road. It was 2 a.m. when Marcus found it. He sat at his kitchen table, eyes burning from hours of staring at spreadsheets, about to give up when a single line item caught his attention. A charge on Nathan's credit card. Miller's Stop, Old Mill Road. Timestamp, 3:47 p.m., October 12th. The day Elena was abandoned. According to the missing person report, Victoria and Nathan were searching for Elena at a rest stop on Highway 41 at that exact time. Highway 41 was 50 miles away. They couldn't be in two places at once. Next morning, Marcus called Miller's Stop, a tiny gas station that somehow survived in the middle of nowhere. Do you have security cameras? Sure do. Installed after we got robbed 3 years back. System backs up to the cloud. 90 days. I need footage from October 12th, around 3:45 p.m. You'll need a subpoena. You'll have one. The day they reviewed footage, tension in Derek's office was thick enough to choke on. Derek loaded the file, grainy but clear. 3:47 p.m. appeared on screen. A black Mercedes pulled up to pump 3. That's Nathan's car, Elena breathed. Nathan stepped out, looking bored, swiped his credit card, filled the tank. 3:52 p.m. The passenger door opened. Victoria emerged, checking her phone, walking toward the store, face clearly visible. Marcus paused the video. Look at the direction they came from. The camera showed the road. The Mercedes approached from the south, from deeper into Old Mill Road, where Elena was abandoned. When the car left, it headed north, toward civilization. They weren't searching for her, Derek said slowly. They were leaving her behind. Elena was shaking. Tears streamed down her face. 2 miles. They stopped for gas 2 miles from where they left me to die. Derek leaned back with a grim smile. This isn't just evidence. This is a conviction. The night before the arrests, Marcus received an anonymous email that changed everything. The sender identified herself as Grace Williams, a woman who had worked as Victoria's housekeeper 15 years ago in Virginia. She did this before. To her first husband, I have proof. I've kept it for 15 years, waiting for someone to believe me. Attached were 47 files. Marcus opened them one by one, coffee growing cold. Medical records showing Victoria's first husband, Nathan's biological father, Thomas Reed, had visited the emergency room 6 times in the year before his death. Broken ribs, fractured wrist, concussion. Each time he claimed he was clumsy. Each time Victoria was there, playing the worried wife. Photographs Grace had secretly taken. Bruises on Thomas's arms in patterns that didn't match falls. A handprint-shaped mark on his neck. And most damning, a letter Victoria had written to her sister, recovered from the trash. I can't take much more of this. Thomas refuses to change the will. He's leaving everything to his brother unless I give him a child, and I will not ruin my body for that man's money. The stairs are steep in this house. Accidents happen every day. 3 weeks after that letter, Thomas Reed fell down those stairs and broke his neck. Victoria inherited everything. No investigation was ever open. Marcus sat until dawn, reading and rereading. Victoria wasn't just a greedy stepmother who seized an opportunity. She was a practiced predator who had done this before. Elena had been her second attempt. The arrests happened on a Wednesday morning, 6 weeks after Marcus found Elena. Victoria was taken into custody at her new luxury apartment in Buckhead. She wore a silk robe and held a mimosa when police arrived. Her expression wasn't fear or shame. It was pure rage. Nathan was arrested at a nightclub at 2 a.m., bottle service still on his table. There must be some mistake, he kept saying. Do you know who my mother is? News coverage flipped overnight. The grieving stepmother became the monster who left her disabled stepdaughter to die. But Victoria and Nathan had expensive lawyers. They weren't going down without a fight. At the arraignment, Victoria's attorney dropped a bomb. My client intends to prove that Elena Winters orchestrated her own disappearance to frame her stepmother and steal the family inheritance. She is not a victim. She is a manipulator who has fooled everyone, including the man she's conveniently living with. They're using my disability against me, Elena realized as they left. They're saying I'm crazy because I'm in a wheelchair. It got worse. Victoria's lawyers subpoenaed Elena's medical records, therapy notes, prescription history. They painted a picture of a fragile, unstable woman capable of elaborate deception. Online, public opinion wavered. Disabled people can be manipulative too, one viral tweet read. Elena read the comments one night when she couldn't sleep. Marcus found her in the living room at 3 a.m., Laptop open, tears streaming silently. Maybe they're right, she whispered. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe I imagine. Stop! Marcus's voice cut through. He knelt beside her wheelchair. I found you in that rain. I saw your face. I saw what 4 hours did to you. You didn't imagine anything, and we are going to prove it. The trial began on a cold Monday in December. The courtroom was packed every day. Local news covered it live. National outlets picked up the story. The disabled heiress, the wicked stepmother, the stranger who stopped on a rainy road. Elena sat at the plaintiff's table, wheelchair beside Derek. Marcus sat in the front row with Sophie. Mrs. Patterson came every day. Victoria and Nathan sat at the defense table in designer clothes, expressions calibrated for wounded innocence. Mrs. Winters, Derek began cross-examination. You testified you were searching for Elena at the Highway 41 rest stop at 3:47 p.m. on October 12th, correct? Yes. Victoria's voice was steady. We were frantic with worry. Then explain why your son's credit card shows a charge at Miller's Stop on Old Mill Road at that exact time. The courtroom murmured. Victoria's mask flickered. We must have stopped there earlier. Earlier? The missing person report states Elena went missing at 2:30 p.m. Your story claims you searched Highway 41 for over an hour before calling police at 4 p.m. Derek walked to the projection screen. This is security footage from Miller's Stop. Timestamp 3:47 p.m. That's you exiting the passenger side, is it not? Victoria's face on screen was unmistakable. The times must be wrong. The times are electronically verified by the credit card company and the gas station security system. Derek zoomed out. And here's what's interesting. Your son's car came from the south, from deeper into Old Mill Road, where Elena was found. You left heading north. He turned to face Victoria directly. You weren't searching for Elena. You were leaving her behind. I don't... The times, no further questions. Nathan's testimony was devastating. He started confident, young, handsome, sympathetic, spoke about loving his stepsister, being devastated when she disappeared. Then Derek read his social media posts aloud. Problem solved. Celebrating with bottle service. Life is good. Derek's voice was calm. You wrote this 2 days after your stepsister was found nearly dead. What problem was solved? Nathan's charm evaporated. That was about something else. What else? I don't remember. You don't remember what you were celebrating 2 days after your stepsister almost died? Silence stretched until unbearable. Then came Grace Williams, 62 years old now, gray hair and a neat bun. She had flown in at her own expense, waited 15 years for this moment. Derek introduced documentary evidence, medical records, photographs, the letter, each projected on screen, each drawing gasps. The letter was worst. Victoria's own handwriting. The stairs are steep in this house. Accidents happen every day. Mrs. Williams, how did you come to possess these documents? Grace's voice was steady. I worked for Mrs. Winters for 3 years, saw what was happening to Mr. Reed, the bruises he tried to hide, the fear in his eyes when she entered a room. Did you report your concerns? I called police after I found him unconscious at the bottom of the stairs. A month before he died, they came, talked to Victoria, left. She told them Thomas was an alcoholic who fell because he was drunk. Grace's jaw tightened. Thomas Reed never touched alcohol. He was a church deacon. What happened after that first fall? Victoria fired me. But before I left, I copied everything. Medical records, photographs, that letter from her trash. Grace looked directly at Victoria. I knew someday she would do it again. I wanted to be ready. One final question. A month before Thomas Reed's death, what did you overhear Victoria say on the phone? Grace took a breath. She said, it needs to look like an accident. The stairs would be easiest. Just make sure there are no witnesses. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Victoria's lawyer leaped up. Objection! Hearsay! I move for mistrial. Overruled, the judge said flatly. Documentary evidence corroborates the witness's account. For the first time, Victoria's mask cracked completely. What emerged was something cold and reptilian, a predator dragged into light. Elena's testimony came on day 12. She wheeled herself to the witness stand. The courtroom fell silent. She told her story simply. The family trip. Unfamiliar roads, Nathan positioning her wheelchair to see the view. What happened next? They got back in the car. I thought they were pulling closer. Then I heard the engine rev. She paused. Nathan looked at me through the back window, and I knew. What did you see in his face? Nothing. No guilt, no hesitation. He looked at me like I was trash he was leaving by the road. How long were you alone before Mr. Thornwell found you? 4 hours. And in those hours, what did you think about? Elena's composure cracked. Tears streamed down her face. I thought about my father, how he spent 9 years caring for me, how he told me I was his greatest gift. She turned to look directly at Victoria. And I thought about how his wife killed him slowly, with fake smiles and pretend love, then tried to kill me the same way he cared for me. Deliberately, thoroughly, without mercy. Silence. Several jury members wept openly. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty, all counts. Both defendants. Victoria, 20 years. The judge cited the pattern. Thomas Reed's suspicious death, calculated cruelty toward Elena, complete lack of remorse. Nathan, 15 years. As bailiffs led them away, Nathan turned to Marcus. This isn't over, he mouthed. I'll find you. Marcus didn't flinch, but Elena gripped his hand, trembling. Some doors, once opened, never fully close. The months after the trial brought unexpected peace. The Thornwell house transformed. Ramps at every entrance, wider doorways, accessible bathroom on the first floor. Elena insisted on paying from her inheritance. You gave me my life back. This is the least I can do. But the biggest changes weren't visible. Sophie and Elena became inseparable. Elena helped with homework, discovering a knack for making algebra interesting. She taught Sophie watercolors, guiding brush strokes with patient hands. She sat through hours of piano practice without complaint. She's like a mom, Sophie told her father one night. Not replacing mom. Different, but still, like a mom. Mrs. Patterson came every Sunday with pastries. She watched Marcus and Elena with knowing eyes. That girl is good for you, she said. You smile again. Haven't seen you smile like this since Sarah. It started small. The way Elena laughed at his terrible jokes, really laughed. The way Marcus made her coffee exactly right without thinking, strong with cream and 1 sugar. Conversations stretching past midnight after Sophie went to bed. His marriage to Sarah, her relationship with her father, dreams interrupted by life. I was going to compete in the Olympics, Elena admitted one night. Equestrian events. Had the talent. And now? She smiled, only a little sad. Now I paint watercolors and help a 12-year-old with algebra. Life had different plans. Are you happy with those plans? Elena looked at him a long moment. I'm beginning to be. 3 months after the trial, on a cold January evening, Marcus came home to find Elena in the kitchen, making hot chocolate. She'd been living with them 6 months. The house felt empty without her. Can I ask you something? Always. Are you happy here? You have options now. The inheritance. Your father's house. You could go anywhere. Elena set down her spoon, wheeled over to face him. Are you trying to get rid of me, Marcus Thornwell? No. The word came out forcefully. I just want to make sure you're staying because you want to. Not obligation. She studied him. I'm staying because this is the first place I've belonged since my father died. Because Sophie makes me laugh and Mrs. Patterson feeds me too much. She paused, color rising. And because you make me feel like I'm not just the girl in the wheelchair, you make me feel like me. Marcus kissed her. It wasn't planned. He just leaned down and kissed her, pouring months of feeling into that moment. When they pulled apart, Elena stared at him. I've wanted to do that for 2 months, he admitted. Then shut up and do it again. 9 months after Marcus found Elena, summer arrived. The garden they'd planted together was in full bloom. Tomatoes, peppers, sunflowers against the fence. Sophie was teaching Elena to stake plants, both laughing at something Marcus couldn't hear. He stood at the back door watching. Sunset painted everything gold. Sophie's dark hair caught the light. Elena's laughter carried on the breeze. Peace. Complete, overwhelming peace. Something Marcus hadn't felt in 4 years. That evening, after Sophie went to bed, they sat on the back porch watching fireflies. I have something for you, Marcus said. He'd carried the ring 2 weeks, waiting for the right moment. Elena's hands flew to her mouth. I know it's fast. 9 months. Some people would say we're crazy. He opened the box. Small diamond, elegant, his grandmother's. But life is short, fragile, can be stolen in an instant. When you find something real, you hold on. He looked into her eyes, those hazel eyes that had been full of terror the night he found her, now shining with something else entirely. Elena Winters, will you marry me? She was crying before he finished. Yes, absolutely yes. From inside, a squeal. Sophie's face appeared at the window, grinning so wide it looked painful. Finally, I've been waiting forever. They married on a Saturday in October, 1 year to the day after Marcus took a wrong turn on Old Mill Road. 50 guests, autumn flowers, Mrs. Patterson crying in the front row. Sophie, 13 now, served as maid of honor. A year ago, Sophie said, voice clear and strong, my dad brought home a stranger who needed help, and I gained a mom who chose us, who chose to be here, to love us, to make us a family. She looked at Elena, tears on both their faces. You taught me family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up. And you show up every single day. As the sun set on their wedding, Marcus and Elena stood under string lights watching their family celebrate. A year ago, Elena said softly, I was in the rain, waiting to die. Made peace with it. Marcus pulled her close. So did I. Different reasons. Same feeling. And now? Now I believe in wrong turns, because sometimes they take you exactly where you're supposed to be. Some nights Marcus still thought about Nathan's words, that cold promise, this isn't over. 15 years was a long time, but not forever. So Marcus took precautions, security system with cameras, silent alarm to police, self-defense classes for Sophie and Elena. Every 6 months he checked Nathan's status, still incarcerated, still showing no remorse, but Marcus refused to let that shadow darken what they'd built. Elena had taught him something. You could acknowledge darkness without letting it consume you. Be prepared for the worst while believing in the best. On warm summer evenings, watching his wife and daughter laugh in their garden, Marcus chose to believe in the best. Old Mill Road still exists. Rain still falls there, washing away old tracks and old sins. But in a modest house in Marietta, Georgia, 3 people who lost everything found something unexpected. Marcus found purpose in saving someone who needed him. Elena found safety in arms of someone who stopped when everyone else would have kept driving. Sophie found a mother who chose her, not by blood, but by love. Sometimes the greatest journeys don't take us somewhere new. They take us back to ourselves, back to hope, back to healing. Back to the truth that it's never too late to start again. 1 year after finding her on that rain-soaked road, Marcus understood what he'd been afraid to believe. He hadn't just saved Elena's life that night. She had saved his right back. And isn't that what love is? Two broken people choosing each other, again and again, through storms and sunshine, choosing to stop, choosing to stay, choosing every single day to find their way home, together. The end.